So we've got a beautiful day, it's the middle of October and we're down in the Cotswolds at the Carp Society's Farriers Lake venue. It's a syndicate lake, I'm here by invite. It's a lake that I've heard a lot about in the past. It's got an incredible stock of fish. I came here first thing this morning, I've had a good walk round with the bailiff. I've actually found a little group of fish tucked away in a corner. I've seen a few shows, a bit of fizzing, so I've got my kit round here and I've had a look through the rules. There's a set of rules that surround this lake that is going to mean I'm going to have to make quite a few changes to my normal style of fishing. So I'll run you through all those later, but for now I'm going to crack on. I'm really excited to get rods out in the swim and have a go for these amazing Farriers carp. Right, I'm just going to have a quick lead about. Need to get my spots absolutely precise, but there are fish in the area. I've seen them here this morning. There's still bubbling going on. I can't leave it any longer, but I'm going to have to get all my disturbance done as quickly as possible. I want to get everything sorted and ready. I want to be 100% happy for the night ahead. So I'm going to crack on with this now before I set anything else up. So, here we go. It's an absolute crackdown. Say that was about 4 foot. It's pretty smooth. Right, so realistically for this time of year I'm looking for obviously natural, what I consider natural feeding spots. So slight depressions in the bottom, little silt filled pockets, anywhere where you're going to find, you know, the last collections of natural food sort of harbouring themselves. You know, I don't want to be in amongst the dead weed, all that decay and whatnot. You know, certainly for those long periods of the night, the fish are going to be getting out of that and browsing around looking for those last remnants of the natural food. As I say, we're middle of October now, and pretty sure I've just seen that there could be 2 carp over there. I can see a little glint. But yeah, I'm sort of you know, looking for natural feeding spots rather than those big polished areas that, you know, considerably they could well be done by now. You know, they've been fed on over the course of the summer. So yeah, maybe something slightly softer in the silt. Now that is much softer, plugging slightly. Pretty clean though, there's a slight bend in the rod tip. I mean, that's considerably softer than everything that I'd got on the left hand side of that area where I've been watching them fizz. So I've got to make up my mind. Yeah, there you go. So you can see we've just picked up a little bit of scrubby dead weed off of that, which is what I'd expect to find in those softer areas. Nothing really major. You can see it's a little bit black, so it's siltier compared to this sandy bottom that I'm pretty sure is what we're landing on where we've been watching the bubbling. So I want to sort of be on the, probably on the edge of that really. So I'm going to give it another cast, see if I can find the seam. That's soft. Sort of just a little bit conscious. I don't want to go right out of my jurisdiction and end up with someone going in opposite there and fishing all over the top of me. Ooh. Perfect. Well happy with that. Be able to fish the front edge of a feature, which will give me absolutely prime line lay as well. Oh yes, bang on. Bang on. Oh, fuck me. Excuse my language, sorry. What a day that has been. It's been incredible really for mid-October. Beautiful sunny day. We're on the sort of side back edge of the wind. It's really, really warm. The sun's been intense to the fact that we've had some incredible insect catches, to be fair. They've been coming off the water, out of the bushes. And we've seen some carp, we've seen bubbling activity, we've seen a few shows. I'm super happy with the spots that I've found. So I'll explain to you a little bit about what I've done. Obviously when we got into the swim, we knew that there were fish about, but you have to get your spots right. There's no point just chucking and chancing, especially on new lakes. It's really imperative to find decent presentable spots. And what I was looking for this time of year was the silt really. So I've had a quick lead around the sort of areas that I've seen the fish, found 2 gravel seams. I've bumped the lead back off the leading edge of the gravel into the silt, clipped the rod up and then cast around the zone to see the sort of extent of what I'm looking at. I've got a little bit of Canadian on the left hand side of the left hand spot. I've come away from that into the silt, so I've got nice firm drops. And in terms of bait application, I've gone in with 2 separate sort of ideas. So the left hand rod, I've gone in with a mulched up boilie and corn with some naturals, that's maggot and caster. So basically I've had the bait soaking in liquid liver and water for 24 hours, so it's nice and soft. I've mushed it up, added some corn, a couple of pints of casters and a few good helpings of maggots. Don't want to go really over the top with the naturals on that rod because I'm fishing a small balanced waft the hook bait with a little bunch of maggots on the top. So that's the left hand spot. The right hand spot's a little bit further out into the lake, sort of I'd say in the mouth of the bay that we're fishing into realistically. Again, real hard crackdowns on the left hand side of that spot with little seams of gravel. I've come slightly right into the silt, nice firm drops, and I've basically put a good hit of worm and caster out on that rod. Just a couple of handfuls of corn in there, and I'm fishing a fake corn hook bait with a big bunch of worms over the top. And I'm sort of sealing that all down with a little fake caster. So again, it's presented on the bottom in the silt, and I've spawned probably, I suppose, about 1 kilo of worm, a couple of pints of casters, and as I say, just a small handful of corn's gone in there as well. So 2 slightly different approaches, slightly different presentations, but very similar areas in terms of the actual spots that I'm fishing on. We're settled in for the night. Again, I'm super happy with those spots. Be nice to see some carp activity in the morning, a bit of bubbling. It's due to the wind's due to swing, I think, to the east. So we'll probably be looking at a flat calm lake tomorrow morning, be up at first light watching the water, and yeah, hopefully we get some activity. Well, we've got a bite right on duck on the old right hander. Need to concentrate because obviously we've got a barbless hook rule, so it is a fairly weedy corner of the lake, and after all that work this afternoon getting in the swim, we want to get him in, and we've just seen a very big fish in the area as it goes. It's kiting out to the right. Just got to sort of concentrate here a little bit. Don't know the lake, don't know the layout of the lake particularly well, so excuse me while I concentrate. Oh, the old handle came out. First Farriers common in the net. Well, I'm well happy with that. What a result, eh? And we ain't even been here that long. Fantastic. Great result. Just gonna work my way out of the mud. Try not to fall over. Yeah, let's keep her out there for a second while we sort things out. I'm sinking. Whoa. £30.8. Well, there we go. A Farriers carp, a 30-pounder on the first evening. That is what autumn is all about for me. In the silt, over a bit of food, and we'd seen activity in the area, and yeah, an evening bite just on dusk. Off she went, right hand rod, and here we go. Hopefully the first of a few, but if not, I'm chuffed to bits with that. Autumn carp fishing, fantastic. Let's get you back, mate. There we go. Perfect October evening. And a fantastic old carp to go with it. Cheers, mate. That's why we love going carp fishing. Well, the morning after the night before, still buzzing off the capture of that incredible old common late yesterday evening. So we've gone through the night, been hearing the fish in the bay. They're still in residence, which is great, because we did have an angler move in to my left late yesterday afternoon, and I was a bit worried it might push the fish out, but they're still here. Stayed up till around midnight-ish last night, was hearing fish periodically through that period of time, and then the mist came in, and as you can see, we've got a almost white out this morning. Typical late autumn, high pressure sort of morning. Lake steaming, but we have heard a couple this morning. Had a few single bleeps on the right hand rod last night, so it's encouraging. I think there's a bite on the cards this morning, although it's impossible now to see the fizzing. Just hearing them's good enough. I'm well happy with the swim and the location. It's just down to the carp now. Are they going to feed this morning? Maybe we'll have to wait till this evening again. I don't know. As I say, it's a brand new lake for me, first visit. I'm just enjoying my time down here. It's so exciting. Some of the fish that we've heard have been absolute giants. So it's late autumn. The big uns are on the feed. They're due out. Can we catch an absolute monster? We'll see. Like the whole surface is just like a buzzing mass of insects. Incredible for the time of year. Shows what strength that sun's got to it still, doesn't it? Well, the mist cleared, and yeah, I've seen a couple of shows and I've had fizzing over me for the last 3/4 of an hour. Now this is the rod that I recast in the dark after that bite last night, and I've got to be honest, it was just eating away at me. Even though I got an absolutely crisp drop and it hit the clip as sweet as I could have hoped for, it was in the dark. I wasn't watching the rig go out, and it's just eating away at me this morning. With the fish that I've seen in the area, I couldn't leave that rig out there. I had to bring it back in. I'd rather have a recast and have a clear mind than sit there with any kind of doubt. So I've skipped it in. As it happened, it was absolutely perfect, which sometimes in the back of your mind, in your heart of hearts, you know it probably is, but you can't be fishing with doubt. I just can't have that. So I'm prepared to put a fresh rig out, a new cast in the daylight, get it settled out there. I just feel like there's a chance with this sun now out, brand new wind rippling into my end of the lake. I just feel like there's a really good chance of one of those sort of afternoon bites. Looks cock on for it. I want everything out there as best as I can, so that's why I'm reeling in and refreshing this rig. So I'm going to get on with it, get it back out there, and we'll see what the afternoon brings. It's looking absolutely prime. So yeah, buzzing for this this next few hours. Let's see what happens. Well, I've got the rig all sorted. I'm just going to put a couple of spawns out there just to hopefully just push the fish back a little bit before I put the rig out, and then we're done for the afternoon. Let's get this done. Hopefully it will generate a bit of activity and a bite. It's been a quiet day, but not that quiet. We've seen fish in the area still. I've had a little bit of bubbling going on at a couple of shows. So I'm having a think about what we're doing going forward for the rest of this trip. And thinking about it this morning, like I've had coots, my shorter rod, I've had coots over that rod. And they've been diving on me periodically. I haven't actually seen any fish show up on that zone. Bulk of the activity has been over the rod and around the area that I had the bite yesterday evening. So moving forward, this is a 2-rod rule on this lake. I'm actually going to squeeze 2 rods into that zone, the area of the bulk of activity. So I'm going to skip one of those rods in a minute. I'm going to just lead up around that rod, find the extent. Basically had a cast earlier and found a bit of silkweed. I've noticed they're bubbling in the silkweed, so I want to fish up as tight as I can to that, really tight to that leading edge of weed. And then I'm going to get both of those rods out. I want to get them done early today, as early as possible, just to try and maximise the the chance of another one of those evening bites. The fish have got more and more active as the day's gone on. I feel like it could be building up to that period of time. For me, autumn evening's always been an absolute classic time. Just as the daylight's fading, you could have fish passing over your spots all throughout the day, and with that failing light, they just tip up and have a little feed. And sometimes that can be the best chance of the day. We all know what it's like in the summer. You're all waiting for that 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Autumn can be very much all about the evenings and through the dark hours. So, I want to get that done, everything sorted. Slight change of tactics in terms of we're rather than having 2 separate spots, we're gonna fish the one spot. But everything else will remain the same. Rig's the same, baiting scenario the same. We're going to go in with the naturals. And we'll see what the night brings. But yeah, I mean, it's such an exciting place. This every moment that passes, I just got that air of expectancy. I feel like one of those rods is going to rip off. It's exactly what you're after with autumn carp fishing, without a doubt. What a place this is. I'm buzzing for it. Well, that was fishing. Nothing wrong with that. Oh yeah. Ideal. Get 2 on there easy. Moving into autumn, just as the water starts cooling down, I like to start adding some naturals into my mix. The likes of chopworm, caster, a few handfuls of maggots. I feel this is often very beneficial at that time of year when the fish have been highly pressured through the spring and summer on boilies and normal particle approach. Quite often the addition of these natural baits to your mix can often elicit a good feeding response from the fish at a time of year where bites can be quite tricky and hard to come by. So yeah, a small handful, you don't need to go mad with it, but I like to add it to my hook bait. Either top a small wafter off with a couple of rubber casters, or maybe a little bit of worm section. And I've always found that little bit of addition into the mix can just get those bites when everything sort of is starting to really slow down. Right, so skip the rods in. I'm going to put fresh hook baits on. I'm fishing 2 slightly different presentations here. This one is with a little piece of fake corn. I then slide a rubber caster over the top of that, and then thread a small bunch of worms down onto the doubled over piece of, I use the Duo Fleck. I want a slightly thicker material than floss for threading the worms on. Once I've put 4 or 5 worms on, I then put another small buoyant rubber caster, thread it down the Duo Fleck, just push it up against the bunch of worms, hold them in position, then tie a couple of granny knots, cut it off, and everything's secured in place then. The piece of fake corn, which is buoyant, and the 2 rubber casters gives it just enough buoyancy to let the hook lay flat, and the hook bait just sits over the top beautifully. The other rod, because I'm putting maggots in the mix, I'm going to use like a whittled down dumbbell wafter manila, and I'm just going to put a big bunch of like a big Medusa's head of maggots over the top of that, like quite a nice bright, more visual hook bait, so the worm is slightly more subtle if that can be the case with a bunch of worms, but obviously the maggots being red and cocked up over the top of that dumbbell are a little bit more visual in the silt. So we're going to fish those rods either side of the spot, roughly a rod length apart, just put the spawn mix out there, and I'm going to get these done and flicked out there ready for the evening. So we're up against it now with these late afternoons and darkness falling in autumn, so you've got to make sure you're well prepped. Well, considering I was casting into the sun, I managed to get that out absolutely bob on first cast. Well chuffed with that. Believe how well this has gone. This is the rig that I've been using for this trip. It's almost the complete role reversal of the rig that I use for my main boilie fishing pop-ups, and that is a soft boom with a really super stiff hooking section. So this is the complete opposite. It's got a lot more finesse for fishing these smaller hook baits that I like to do at this time of year, mainly naturals and small bits fishing. So it's a super stiff boom section with a very, very supple end section. So it's a reverse combi rig for me. I'm actually using some materials that I do use in my other fishing, but there's one material that I'd like to talk about that I use for the end section, which is the Duo Fleck, and that allows all this movement to go on with these really, really subtle hook baits. A tint link boom attached to a supple section of Duo Fleck, which is fish slip D style, small blob of putty on the knot, and the hook bait's actually attached to a hook ring swivel on the slip D. So as you can see, loads and loads of movement, and it still gives you that ability to kick the hook bait away from whatever lead arrangement that you're using, be it a helicopter system or a lead clip. We're having to fish a lead clip system here, so I'm fishing this on a quick change system. So I tie a perfection loop knot, which allows me to detach the hook link from my lead system with, you know, a lot of ease. So if I need to change the rig to something else, I can do that easily. I'm going to talk you through how to tie this rig now. So I'll start by taking a 12 to 14 inch section of tint link. Take that and I'll make a small fold in the end of that, which is where I'm going to create my Albright knot. Then take 6 to 8 inches of Duo Fleck. I'll pass that through the looped over section of tint link, and I'll whip up that section 8 times and back down 4 times, passing both tags back through the tint link the same way that I came up. I want to keep the looped section of the duo fleck at around about 2 inches. So when I'm creating my Albright knot, I start off with 1 inch of duo fleck at the end, and then when I've tightened it down, it should give you around about a 2 inch section of supple duo fleck, which is what we're going to use to create our slip D. Once I've trimmed the tag ends off, I'll neaten everything down, and then I'll slide probably around about 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres of shrink tube down the duo fleck looped over section. I do that with a baiting needle so I create the liner effect. I then push the looped over section of duo fleck through. I like to use a beaked point hook for this with an inturned eye. Push it through the eye, slip on a hook ring swivel, and then bring the loop over the top of the hook and bed it all down nicely. I like to leave the end of the slip D section around about level with the barb of the hook. I then push the shrink tube up, just bringing it over the eye, level it out so that the liner is coming out in perfect alignment with the point of the hook, and I just steam that slowly over the kettle, shrink it down, just making sure everything's nice and neat. I finish off with a nice blob of putty over the top of the Albright knot. That gives like a pivot point for the hook to move around on the end of this duo fleck material, so that you've got loads of free movement and it enables the hook to turn nicely. Last but not least, the small blob of putty halfway up the boom, and I'll finish the boom with a perfection loop knot, creating around about a 6 inch boom with the 2 inch section of duo fleck, giving me a finished rig of around 8 inches in length. Find that works well over small spreads of bait and nice tight baiting patterns as well. Gives a nice amount of free movement with this rig and creates really strong positive hook holds. Great thing about the rig as well is that once you've hooked a fish, if you want to change your hook, you just peel the shrink tube off, new section of shrink tube, new hook, hook bait back on, steam it down, and you're ready to go again. It's a really robust, great rig for using over, as I say, small amounts of bait. Gives you great hook holds and nice anti-tangle properties. All round really good rig going into late autumn, early winter. Going into the second evening now, super confident, rods went out really sweet, both rods first chuck, bang on the spots, so couldn't have been any happier with that. Oh, just got a liner. Oh, we're away. No, that's got to be away, innit? Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be away. Here we go. Here we go. Well, just about to do the evening update. I said we were feeling confident and we're away. So exciting. You just never know what's going to pop up. And we have actually seen a couple of real big ones in the zone. So, yeah, who knows? But this is Farriers all over for you. Another autumn evening on Farriers. In she goes. Lovely Farriers Common on an autumn evening. I'm well chuffed. $32.2. There we go. 32 pounder. There we go. 32 pounder this evening. An evening bite again. Around about an hour earlier than yesterday, so yeah, gives me time to get that old rod back out there in the daylight. And this is obviously one of the culprits of all that fizzing this afternoon. Just dropped down, maybe a little bit more competition out there, managed to get me to bite. So yeah, chuffed to bits. I'm going to get him back. I want to get that rod back out there. Hopefully this is the start of maybe a number more through the night. We'll see. Is this the start of a little bit of a feeding spell? Be nice. But anyway, thanks for coming, mate. I'm going to get you back. Well, what a turn up that was. I think my last sentence before that bite was I'm feeling really confident for the evening, and yeah, so it was. We got a bite, and it came on the new part of the spot, as I said to you earlier. I was putting the two rods out there, and yeah, it's all the plans come together, so I'm well chuffed. You know, going into this evening, we've got a bit of rain forecast in the morning. Definitely feels that little bit milder tonight, although we're on the back of the wind. So what wind there was today was easterly. We had nice sun, so you know, everything's set for what potentially could be a good night. I mean, I'm confident of another bite. If it happens, we'll let you know. But as it is, I've had a great day down here at Farriers, and it's been lovely just to soak up the atmosphere and get the rods out that little bit earlier than yesterday, and it's paid off. So you can't really ask more than that, can you? You know, I think tonight I'm going to crack open a beer, have a curry, enjoy the evening, soak up the atmosphere, and yeah, let's see what the night brings, eh? 36 and a half. Well, there we go, we finally got one of the better ones. 36 pound, plump autumn carp. It's come as a bit of a random one, this one. Bite came just before first light, which is a first for this trip. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to sort of hang around a bit today, because I've heard a few big fish in the bay round to the left, and you know, you never know what might happen, but you know, to get 3 carp late October and you know, come here when the lake's fishing really hard, I'm super chuffed. So if you're the last one of the trip, mate, thank you very much. Well chuffed with you. Let's have a look at the other side. Well, he is a proper plump one. He's crapping out casters all over me mat. We've been having a good old feast, autumn feast. We've got the baiting situation right, the spots right, and the weather has been cock on. So yeah, what a trip. Absolutely made up with that. Let's get you back. That is what autumn is all about. That is what autumn is all about. Big carp, cool carp, beautiful weather. I am absolutely buzzing with this trip. Super chuffed. What a trip. Let's get this rod sorted out. I'm going to ping them both back out if I'm honest. Got to maximise this day, haven't we? Well, as you can see, that one gave me a bit of a run around that last carp. Took me through what I thought was a bit of a snag, locked up, ended up pulling him in with a load of twigs and a bit of a branch. So I've just snipped the main line off. I'm taking my tubing off, and I don't know whether I've mentioned this before, but the rules of the lake are no leaders, so it's lead clip or sort of naked heli only, and just on a personal preference, for me, I like to use tubing behind the clip, just for the protection of the carp's flanks and whatnot. It's just a personal choice. I find it's, you know, it gives you that nice buffer. But yeah, we're on lead clips. I usually prefer to use a heli system with my lead core. That's just how I like to fish. I'm very confident in that setup. But you know, you just tailor your approach to the rules of the lake, and you adapt and go with the flow. And you know, obviously I know lead clips work incredibly well, and a lot of guys will always prefer to use a lead clip over a heli system. I've opted for 2 different systems, one of them with the stiff coated hook link on the ring swivel, and the fluorocarbon combi rig. I've gone on a quick change clip with a little sleeve over the end, so it pushes it away from the lead, and they've both worked. So we've had 2 on the combi rig, 1 on the cam stiff D. So yeah, I'm going to get this tubing threaded back up the line, which is no mean feat for someone in their 50s with failing eyesight. But we'll get there. Haven't quite got round to the glasses stage yet, but we're nearly there. But this is always good fun, especially with wet tubing, but we'll see how we go. The lovely thing again about this 20 pound OGX is it's got enough meat about it to be able to thread through these tubing lengths with quite a decent amount of ease, and we're getting there. As you can see, it's barely even got properly light yet, and what I'm going to do is I'm I'm going to skip the other rod in. While I'm doing this one, I thought I might as well do them both. And I'm going to freshen up the spot with a few spoms of bait. Because as I say, I'm going to hang around for the day. I've just had a good one. And there is a chance of a bite. And obviously, with the history of this trip so far, the first 2 bites came in that last hour of daylight. So obviously I just want to maximise that and see if we can't get one of the true giants of the lake, because they're out there, and this is the time of year that if you do get one, it's going to look magnificent. So let's get these rods done. Well, that one's going straight back out. Bang on, nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to get it straight back out on the spot and then just put a few spoms over the top, freshen it all up for the day. Obviously that last big common was crapping casters out all over me mat, so there's been a fair bit eaten out there, I would imagine. Right, let's get this one back out there. That is bang on. Oh, me, that's a bite. Farriers Lake, like many clubs and syndicates across the country, has a specific set of rules which you have to abide by. Made sure I've checked through those to see if it affects any of the way that I would normally fish on other waters, and sure enough there was a number of things that I needed to address. The first one was no braided mainline. So to that effect I had to look through the repertoire of things that I like to use elsewhere at times, and I chose to use the Thinking Anglers OGX copolymer mainline in the 20-pound breaking strain. That's a 0.40 diameter line, super robust, really good sinking properties, but the main thing, or the number one reason I chose it, is because it really transmits the positiveness back from the lead to the tip. Obviously not as good as braid, but with that copolymer, it's as good as it gets. And you know, with a shallow water, and when you're feeling for drops in shallow water, you've only got a very short window, and you know, a really good choice for me, that, and so that's what I've gone for. Point 2, no leaders. So in general terms, I love fishing with a lead core leader, I love fishing heli style or whatever, but in terms of fishing at Farriers, I've gone for a straightforward lead clip system with tubing. I like to use the tubing behind the lead clip just for protection of the fish's flanks, and that sort of somewhat changes the way that I'm going to use my rigs. I've elected to fish one of the lead clips with a ring swivel, one with a quick change, and that just allowed me to use different rigs for different situations depending on the spots that I'm finding. The third point is it's a barbless hook rule. Now, I've fished a number of barbless hook rules around the country, and one of the big things that I found is that a beak point pattern just gives you that little bit extra security when it comes to hook holds, and especially when teamed up with a slightly inturned eye, maybe a small shrink tube kicker, just allowing that hook to just hold in that little bit longer, especially in weedy scenarios where you might not have full direct contact with the fish all the way through the fight. So making these little subtle changes to the way I fished just allows me to you know, come to a lake, fish effectively, just tailoring my approach to the set of rules that you're given to fish with within those parameters. So we're right in the witching hour now. Last 2 nights this has been the time, and you know, historically and over periods of autumns that I've fished in the past, this really is the exciting time coming up right now. Dusk, twilight, moving into darkness, and you know, we thought we'd hang it out here just on that last gasp whacker type scenarios. Let's see if we can't get one. You know, realistically, throughout that summer period, you're waiting for dawn. It's all about that high expectancy of first light and those first few hours of daylight. Well, moving into autumn, for me, it's all about the hours of darkness. And as we get into the dusk and the bats start flitting about and the light levels are dropping, this is the time we're waiting for. And the anticipation's high. Let's just hope one of these rods goes off at the last minute, and yeah, we can end on a real high then. Other than that, what a day this has been. You know, started off really well with that first bite. Let's hope we can get one more. If not, we're winding our way home back to Kent with a big smile on our face because we've had a great trip. Let's see what happens tonight. Well, I think that's going to do us. That's been a lovely couple of days down at Farriers. Weather's turning, big easterly blowing, got rain forecast. I'm going to skip these rods in now. I'm going to get on the motorway and wind my way home and reminisce on what's been a bloody lovely trip. Some lovely carp, really nice company. It's a great syndicate water run by the Carp Society, and yeah, I've had a great time, so can't ask any more than that. Great autumn session.